All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a fascinating principle from Islamic finance that is surprisingly relevant in our economy right now. We'll start with a really modern puzzle, something a trader might face today, and use it to explore an ancient principle about what makes lending ethical.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at that real-world puzzle I mentioned, margin trading. Then, we'll dig into the ancient rule that actually gives us the answer, the idea of a loan with a benefit. We'll have to ask, what is a benefit, really? After that, we'll see how this same rule pops up in other modern financial situations. And finally, we'll get to the big why, the wisdom behind this whole concept.
All right, let's kick things off with that real-world scenario. This isn't some dusty old concept. It's a question that finance pros who follow Islamic law are dealing with right now, today.
Okay, so here it is, the big question. Is margin trading okay under Islamic law if the broker isn't charging you any direct interest on the loan? I mean, on the surface it sounds fine, right? No interest, no problem. But as always, the devil is in the details.
Let's break down how this actually works. First, you, the client, pay a part of it. That's the margin. Then, the broker loans you the rest of the money. But here's the catch, and this is everything. The broker says, you have to do all your trading through me. See that third step? That's where things get interesting, and it's exactly where this ancient principle comes roaring back to life.
Okay, so what's the verdict on this? To get the answer, we need to zoom out and look at a really powerful core principle. This goes way beyond just margin trading. It's about a whole different way of looking at finance. So this scholarly ruling is super clear. Nope, this transaction is not permissible. And the reason why is what's so important. It cracks open this fundamental idea in ethical finance, and believe it or not, it has almost nothing to do with a typical interest rate. And this is it. This is the principle right here. In Arabic, it's كل قرض جر نفعا فهو ربا, which basically translates to every loan that brings a benefit is a form of riba, or usury. Now, usury here doesn't just mean high interest. It means any kind of unjust or exploitative gain. So the problem isn't the loan itself. The problem is that required extra benefit the lender gets. In our example, that's the broker getting all your trading commissions. Okay, but you might be asking, how official is this rule? Where does it actually come from? And that's a great question, because in any legal framework, the origin of a rule tells you how much weight it carries.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. When you look into its history, you find that its status as a direct saying of the Prophet Muhammad, a hadith, is debated by scholars. The chain of narration is considered weak, but, and this is the key part, as a legal principle, as a maxim of Islamic law, it's universally accepted. All the major legal scholars, for centuries, have agreed on it and applied it. It's a foundational concept.
All right, so if the whole rule hinges on this word benefit, we absolutely have to nail down what that means. Because, not every advantage you get is forbidden.
And here's the absolute heart of the matter. A benefit becomes a problem when it's stipulated. That means it's a condition of the deal. It's part of the contract. So, for example, if you borrow money from a friend, pay them back, and then later decide to give them a thank you gift out of the blue, that's totally fine. That's a voluntary gesture. But if that gift was a requirement for getting the loan in the first place, now that's a stipulated benefit.
So let's make this super clear. What crosses the line and what's okay? A forbidden benefit would be something like requiring the borrower to use your services or demanding a gift as part of the deal. But look at what's permitted. Asking for security, like getting a mortgage on a property or having someone co-sign, that's fine. Why? Because that's about protecting the original loan amount, not about making an extra profit from the act of lending itself.
Okay, so this isn't just some abstract rule for margin traders. Let's look at how this exact same principle pops up in other areas of modern finance. You'll see it's actually everywhere. Okay, first up, loan indexation. Imagine you're in a country where the local currency is really unstable. It's common for someone to give a loan in, say, Turkish lira, but peg the repayment to a more stable currency, like the US dollar. The idea is to protect the lender from losing money to inflation. So what's the issue here? Well, according to this principle, you've essentially bundled two contracts into one. You have the loan, which is supposed to be simple. You give money, you get that same amount of money back. But you've also added a condition of a future currency exchange. That condition gives the lender an extra benefit, an extra layer of protection that's directly tied to the loan itself. That's the stipulated benefit we've been talking about. All right, another example, currency swaps. These can get complicated, but at their core, they often involve bundling two different exchanges together. So think about it like this. In a swap,
You might exchange your dollars for euros right now, on the spot, but the contract forces you to do a second transaction in the future, to swap them back at a pre-agreed rate. You see? One transaction is conditional on the other. You can't just do the first one. That mandatory bundling, that condition, is seen as creating that forbidden benefit. The whole spirit of the rule is to keep transactions clean, to not use one deal as leverage to force another.
Okay, so we've seen the what and the how, but now for the most important part, the why. What's the big idea behind this prohibition? This isn't just about technical rules. There's a really deep ethical philosophy at work here about money and our communities.
At its core, it's about this: protecting people from being exploited. The rule wants to preserve the very idea of a loan as a benevolent act, an act of support for someone in need. It draws a really clear, bright line in the sand. Over here, you have acts of help and charity, and over there, you have commercial for-profit deals. The rule says you can't mix them. And this quote from the source material just nails it. It says, "The loan is based on benevolence and favor, while brokerage is based on commercial negotiation. Combining them is prohibited." It's just so clear, isn't it? A loan is supposed to be a favor. Brokerage is a business. You can't use the favor as leverage to force the business deal. And that really brings us to the final crucial point. In today's incredibly complex financial world, with everything from crypto to crazy derivatives, this ancient principle is maybe more relevant than it's ever been. It forces us to stop and ask a really profound question about any deal we enter. Is this a fair exchange? Or am I using someone's need for a loan to get myself an extra unearned benefit? It's a powerful question and one that's definitely worth thinking about.